back with another video. Shout out to Bernard Riley, having Xavier on there, Prophet of Thought, with his debates and all of that. And this would have been a good debate thing. And had the opportunity to really come up on there, but I know it's a lot of brothers, a lot of good, smart brothers on there. So anyway, I just want to let me say this up front. I didn't really see a lot of these stream because I was doing some other things, but I just want to comment on the topic at hand. And then I did hear some stuff here there. I heard Psycho, and they were with the shit that I heard was talk about the music industry, which it always comes down to these fucking little scores to settle and shit like that. And I get that, but let me just speak on this and give my 2 cents. First of all, let me be very clear here, and I want to say this up front because I know I can be long-winded and talk around it. If you do not, as a black man that is pro-black or pro-whatever, if pro-black, if you do not understand that black men have to be the foundation of a community in order to be competitive, you're not really pro-black. You just call it that. Really, you are no different than the church mother. You're no different than anybody that you think is really degenerate in the black community. I don't give a fuck how you slice it, dice it. I don't give a fuck if you're a father, you take it. I don't give a fuck about nothing you want to tell yourself that justifies your shit that black people tell black men or other folks love to tell themselves, whatever narrative. I don't give a fuck. If you do not understand that black men are the foundation,
I got lunch.
if you don't understand that, then it's nothing really to talk about. It really isn't. It really isn't. It's nothing to talk about. And I'm gonna address because one thing that didn't get added in is the thing that BGS is saying, which to be clear, I'm gonna give Ulysses or Complex Design credit because he's been saying this for a long time, just in a different way. Because he's been saying it over and over with the Fourth Industrial Revolution and patriarchy and that all that stuff. A lot of stuff when it comes to ideas of patriarchy and ideas, the environment is just switching that away. And Ulysses has been saying, Complex Design of Black Brain Trust, have been saying there's really nothing you can do. That's you're just gonna have to ride that out. There's nothing you can do at really a collective level. There's things you can do as far as how you want to design your life individually, because you can control who you pick and stuff like that. But as far as collectively, if we're talking about this from a community standpoint, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And then BGS has been saying recently, not that this is something different than what he said, but he's been just putting it into this context. He'll ask these two questions, who has the highest single mother rate? Now he's talking about percentage, not by count. So keep that in mind. Chile is not the largest of countries, and Costa Rica is definitely not. But what his point to that is, these are kind of like, control groups where you can look. These are indicator points, and these are Latin American, third world countries, so they are patriarchal. Women don't have the ability to do the same shit that they have in the United States. So this is his way to point that these are the largest single mother rates. So even but then you got to add in cohabitation, which something that always doesn't get talked about. People like to use that as a way to escape route certain arguments. But anyway. Yo, what's up, Justin? What's up, Young Jay? What's up, Scott? Anyway, my overall point is coming back to the Bernard Riley shit. Is the video was titled "Why Don't Pro-Blacks Critique Black People?" That is an incorrect statement. Pro-Blacks critique black men all the time. Pro-Blacks do not critique black women. And I get, obviously, if you want to title it "Black People" because you don't want to like. I get the different reasons why you title a video, and I'm not even saying that was intended to be that way, but I'm just saying that pro-blacks have no problem critiquing black men. And I would say, and I'm not gonna say they don't critique black women at all, but it's like a 10-to-1 ratio favoring black men. Like they for every one statement you may like drag your feet saying about sisters, you're gonna give a 10 statements about what niggas ain't doing. And the reality is most of the quote unquote what niggas ain't doing shit can really be solved by women minimizing the sexual access that they give to those men. So they purposely validate what quote unquote niggas are not doing by the type of people they select, meaning they're undermining an actual competitive community. And that's what they're supposed to do. Now, if you want to talk about that's what they're supposed to do as far as the design of white supremacy. And see, what pro-blacks tend to want to do is they tend to want to focus the conversation on white supremacy, the government, because that's a way that you can talk to black women. They tend to want to say, we need to keep black women on board. So we're gonna do the little white lies or the misdirection of the conversation to keep black women in the room, because this is how their mind works. Because in their mind, you know, women are people. When in the reality of the situation is the women are really irrelevant. If you don't have the men on board, it doesn't matter how many females you have on board. And it's proven. Because you see how the women raise the boys. And the women raise the boys, and then the boys have to somehow be this shit that has to be corrected, and it becomes this like fucked up cycle loop. And do you really see the black community culturally getting better, or do you see it degenerating since the 80s? It's sliding. It's not getting better. Now, yeah, people can look at certain compartmentalized groups in the black community, like 20% there, 10% there, of course. But if we're talking about the black community as a whole, or even if you cut the black community in half, look at that. Even if you remove the bottom 50%, then look at the black community, shit is still sliding. Especially by the metrics that pro-blacks look at, like metrics like genetic prosperity. Because a lot of the folks that are prospering, if they're black men or black women, are fucking leaving the community. Or what's happening is black women are being alone and they're perpetuating single mother shit. So even though they may make an income, when it comes to what it needs to create intergenerational wealth, these chicks ain't creating intergenerational wealth. Them getting a job or a career does not necessarily create intergenerational wealth. And you got to remember, most hoteps don't even think in wealth. Most pro-blacks are not pro-black by way of economic, like Dr. Clark Anderson style. They are by way of more socialism. Even though in order to enact that type of mentality, you really have to be able to control your own environment, which they like to acknowledge that they don't until it's time to pull the race card. But at the end of the day, they try to act like they're an alternative to like the Christian church and all of that, which in truth, I operate beyond that. The pro-blacks have just as many issues as the black church. It's just the black church is scaled up. They have more money. The truth is, they are just as and the truth is, the black church was more patriarchal, at least more closer to something that could be useful than the Hoteps came out the gate matriarchal. Unless you're talking about the Nation of Islam, which really doesn't count, in my opinion, because that's not what most pro-blacks are. The reality is they're gynocratic, and that's the problem. And so what happens is dudes start having these little issues. Like, for instance, you want to talk about, like, the gynocratic part shows up even in the music conversation. We want to talk, first of all, if your musicians have influence over your people, that's a problem. You will never be a competitive people if your entertainers and motherfuckers that are just on TV has the most influence. So let me tell you something. All you niggas that actually allow musicians to influence you, you're fucking stupid. This is why that white boy was saying the shit. This is why white folks, like white boy was saying, y'all want to get so upset about the IQ motherfucker, the dude putting that IQ shit out. But real talk, if you like, what is it that a musician can do for you? What is it that an entertainer can do for you? They're some of the most compromised people in the community. Even if you look at economics and getting money. Like, if you ever see me talk about entertainer, do you notice that you never hear me talk about no entertainment about particularly music? Maybe a little bit in movies and stuff, but for the most part, you always see me lean on the business side of entertainment. You never really hear me really go deep. If I'm going to talk about somebody that's like a particular person, it's always going to be what they're doing business-wise. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. They're using the media area of activity in order to create, influence. And yes, that creates influence, but black people have this thing where we idealize entertainment. Yes, media is a critical area of activity, but here's the thing: we don't even look at media like, okay, these are all the assets that we have from a media standpoint, are they serving the black people's interests or are they not? And if they're not, how they need to be removed. And how do you install people that at least in this society can start to move that needle in the direction? Even the motherfuckers that talk pro-black, that are entertainers, are really not really doing shit. They're just getting into a infrastructure that's already been provided so they can be controlled. This is why you hear T.I. Look at what Nick Cannon's doing. Nick Cannon's about to look. I got respect for Nick Cannon, but Nick Cannon's about to check into a mental institution because at the end of the day, as soon as they start taking his toys and taking his money and showing him they can remove him economically, you notice how no matter how much these motherfuckers make, it's never enough for them just to cash the fuck out. You notice how you never hear these niggas say, you know what, I'm out. I'm about to start working with Netflix, working with somebody else. I'm about to start creating an app that may not be as big as Netflix, but I can start getting this money and getting this content out. You really don't see people take that leap. At the end of the day, when they are told they will get kicked out of this Hollywood sandbox, they bend the knee, all of them. Even Nick Cannon, because now he's about to check into a mental institution talking about he was insane, which is basically what a white bitch says when Gigi low-key tries to say she was raped, but to come back. So when people really say some real shit, now you start to see like what really happened, and now the shit is starting to be clear. So folks, we cannot, have any fucking misunderstandings. But the reality is the fact that like that conversation even devolved, and obviously it was a 4-hour conversation, but like it's like we're going back and forth about entertainers and rappers. Because the only reason why entertainers and rappers really matter is because bitches want to throw their pussy at rappers. That's it. If the bitches didn't want to throw their pussy at rappers, we wouldn't be talking about it. Period. And that's the influence that a lot of folks are talking about. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be in this society. You cannot control who the women throw their pussy into. This is why we have conversations about things like protection. Because a bitch that's gonna throw her pussy at rappers and shit, and throw their pussy at unproductive Negroes are not females that need to be protected. And I'm not talking about all black women, but we do need to start categorizing black women in priority of protection. Nation of Islam, say what you want to, they protect their own first. And then if they got a little bit of other, they may speak on some other shit. But they protect their own first because their own women follow the rules and understand what it is to plug and play. They don't have to do all of this fixing what the milk that these chicks spilt, because they are told you will not spill milk. And even if you do spill it and we protect you, you're going to have judgment with us. We may deal with the threat, but you're not going to get to keep on making. You're not going to keep on being able to. You're not going to take advantage of the protection. You're not going to do that. You have rules that you have to follow, and those rules are for your protection. And if you follow, like for instance, you know why you don't have women, people constantly keep snatching their kids from across the street? It's because these motherfuckers know to look both ways before they cross the fucking street. Rules are for your protection. And you don't get to be protected and not follow the rules, because therefore what you're doing, you are essentially basically saying that I work for you, and not you. You don't want protection, you want a guard dog, you want a lackey. And black men don't really want to have that conversation, not openly, honestly as they need to. So somebody would tell me, okay, man, you talking all this shit. What is the solution? Well, the first solution that black men need to do is a critical mass of black men need to basically pull the fuck out. Look at it like tides. Before there's a tsunami, when there's a big wave or a tsunami, what happens? The tide pulls all the way out. Meaning, when I say tide, I'm talking about we have to stop contributing. I mean, Professor Black Truth says it all the time when he says it about voting. He says voting is an indicator of how much you believe in the society at large. So if you're voting, as long as the collective populace, it's complex and Soul and Black would say, are voting, then that means they're buying into the system as is. Once they stop voting, then that means other shit is going to happen. You see examples of this across the world. If you notice, look at all the traction that we got. That when I say we, I'm talking black people, attention black people are getting, and they haven't voted for nobody. Because black people are taught that the way you get power is by voting, and voting is one way and not even the main way of getting power. You notice how they never ask black people for money. They always ask black people for their votes. That should tell you something. You notice how the people you're supposed to listen to, whether it's quote unquote musicians, I'm talking to people they present to you, whether it's musicians, pastors, pick your black Congress people, pick your supposed leaders. They always tell you they want you to vote. They never tell you you need your money, ever, ever. Nobody's saying that, not unless they're on social media like Baby Boys watching Dr. Claude Anderson, because it's redirect. And this is also why a lot of times you got mainly women up there, because they're going to go along to get along, because women do not lay foundations. Women do not build infrastructure, even if it's virtual infrastructure or organizational infrastructure, not to compete. Women don't build to compete. Women don't organize to compete. They organize to assimilate. They organize to be accepted. Now, people hear this, they're going to talk about some but not all. Let me talk to y'all about that fucking some but not all statement, because I hate that fucking statement. I really do. I hate anybody that says that fucking statement. If I say that black men have a obsession with fat bitches, of course we know that's not every black man, but we're not going to deny that there's the law of averages of black men that like to fuck big bitches. We're not gonna play that game like that doesn't exist. If I say black women have a single motherhood problem, we're not going to look at the 20% that don't. And that's how you know you're talking to a child. So let's talk about that for a second. The some but not all shit. First of all, when I'm going to say something I haven't said before, like go at an angle. Understand there's a difference between looking at things from an individual perspective and looking at things from a collective group perspective. When you look at it, organizing human beings, be it a corporation, be it a military, be it whatever, depending on the level or the amount of human beings you're dealing with, there's different needs that need to be met. For instance, if you're dealing with a small team, maybe 10 or less, or five or less, but it's more than one, then, that's a team building. The ability for people to work together, organizing units of work as one. That's easier when you're dealing with less people. An individual has individual needs, but a team has team needs. Now, when you're dealing with a bigger collective, it's a different situation. I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on this, but I'm sure there's books on it. When you talk about things from a micro standpoint, you're talking about things from a small couple of people standpoint, like 5 or less or something like that, a smaller number standpoint. Or if not an outright individual standpoint, if you talk about a macro standpoint, you're talking about big numbers. You're talking about big things. You're talking about like a more bigger collection of people or situations. Microeconomics is more. This is why microeconomics has nothing to do with microeconomics is more like personal finance versus macroeconomics is more like economic type of stuff. Even though your personal finance is technically your own personal economy. You get what I'm saying. Black people like to not put even that basic context on things. So the some but not all deflection, this has nothing to do with what Bernard was saying. I'm addressing this. Comes from this idea that if black people are being criticized, whether it's black men or black women, we do some but not all as an initial instinctual reaction. It's not a response, it's a reaction. Some but not all, no, it's not some but not all, because if I say if single motherhood is not a some but not all problem, number one, because it's the majority of women that have children have the issue. Now, single motherhood affects different communities slightly differently because our community is further ahead on the bullshit. And first of all, whatever. My point is, whenever we say something's an issue, shout out to Kevin. We can say what you want to. Kevin is proving these are women that call. So it's not a fucking some but not all problem. And it's designed to minimize the situation. So that to make it invalid. And the first thing that I hear when people do that, okay, so if there's no problem, what are we doing here? That's my first instinctual reaction in my mind when I hear that. What the fuck are we doing here then? So why don't you go and you continue to suffer, and then I'll just pull out and then play the individual card. And this is why black men are always on the hyper individual shit. Because black men are not going to invest in shit that folks are really just trying to get over. And as a community, as a people, we have this, and I'm not even just talking about African Americans, because Africans do it too. We have this thing where we live in the mindset of game, and we don't understand the difference between game and reality. Other groups know when they're fucking doing the fuck shit. It's like black people are so drenched in it, we don't know anymore. We don't know when we're bullshitting and when we're not. Even when you're bullshitting yourself. So women will take, well, something at all. It just become, talking to a lot of these females are like talking to children. And to be fair, talk to a lot of you niggas is like talking to children. Because most of you dudes, and I'm not even talking about young dudes. I'm talking about whatever the age. Because real talk, you are operating in so much of your subjective mind that it's all about feelings. It's all about feelings. I had one dude on Facebook. I saw a comment of a group that I belong to. I don't know, Black Men Travels, whatever. And then he was talking. Oh no, it was a comment from the Fantastic video with the white boy, and he said, well, you know, the white dude just came in here. He was saying everything he thought you wanted to hear, which could be true. And then he flipped it in the next part and said, well, you know, you niggas always, you black people, you know, black people are always denigrating black women and da-da-da. And that's how I know he's a black man, because he said black women first. Black women and denigrating each other, so he was just doing the same thing. No, he wasn't. Like, number one, you don't ever hear black men criticize black women for what they do, not who they are. Number one. In the manosphere, even if it's fucking Tommy Soto, and I'm not the biggest fan of Tommy Soto, Tommy Soto criticizes black women for what they do, not who they are. You do not have, I would challenge any of y'all to show me anybody in the manosphere that's respected that criticize black men or black women for what they do, for who they are and not what they do. Even people like Steve the Dean is really jumping on black women. He may merge what they do as a representation of who they are, but even he's still basing that on what they do. Same thing with Donovan Sharp. Nobody's out here saying that black women are born fucked up. Nobody's saying that. So that's not the same thing as a white boy saying that black people are just born with a lower IQ. Which is just some shit that they tell themselves. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, the ISIS papers, basically checked that shit 30, 40 years ago. When she, shout out to the sister, shout out to the, rest in power, as the pro-black say. She checked that shit 30, 40, 50 years ago. They have a small dick problem. So they do deal with it with guns and basically telling themselves like IQ. If anybody understands the history of how white people even came to be, as far as the Moors, and all the Moors were not black, but you get what I'm saying? How they came out of the Middle Ages will tell you. The only thing that separates white people from anybody, they got guns first. That's it. Without that, they have nothing. Period. But, and so, to give David Monroe, it needs to be addressed. And I think the issue that people had with David Monroe was now I'm kind of siding off a little bit. David Monroe comes off as an apologist. And it's like, dude, you always want to be the contrarian just to be the contrarian. Like, if something needs to be a different opinion, I'm gonna give it. But don't be a contrarian. Just I hate when people do that. And nobody's getting anyway. That's that. But that's what it is. So, and shout out to the Black Brain Trust, because the value of a channel is not always in how many views they get, or subscribers. The value of the channel is sometimes the insight in the library of content that they put out, because there's a lot of really valuable content that doesn't always get a lot of views. It's just you need it when you need it, and that just is what it is. So I appreciate them because that takes time for them to do what they do, and that does have a cost because they have other things they could be doing. Um, but you know, but real fucking talk, like going back to like what Complex said with the fourth industrial wave, and then what BGS is saying, which I believe Complex, I acknowledge what he was saying when he was saying it. So it's not that BGS says it now it's real. No, BGS been low key saying it too. It's just Complex has made a point to really talk about that in that way. I mean, really, it's really every man for themselves. And then what dudes are doing is pro-blacks will come in here and tell black men to invest in something that they don't control. And they pro-blacks do the same shit that Africans try to do. This is why when Africans try it, they get so much heat. Because and that's what I would tell, like I should have said that to Liam and Hammer. When you all come at us with this shit and you're fucking whatever age you all are, I'm not trying to put your age out there like that. You all gotta understand that we do this with each other constantly. So when motherfuckers playing that pro, and it's not even just pro-black, the church does it. It's this game hustle shit where we're trying to manipulate people into giving shit without getting it. There is no social contract. There is no understanding. This is why black people love to keep things subjective as hell. Things gotta be in the gray. There's a difference between nuance and in gray and just keeping shit in the subjective and in the gray just cause. Yeah, and I want to acknowledge this. I said this in the chat, because me and Zero have butted heads about the white boy shit. Because I don't know Zero like that. I have not observed Zero over a long period of time. So I give people the benefit of the doubt until they show me otherwise, outside of a conversation. But I was really paying attention to how Zero responded or observed how he reacted to that dude saying that. And Zero definitely showed that, he understands that he's a black man. And that's why I separate. I don't just throw, you just caping for them white boys. Even if it looks like it, I don't know. But when it came down to it, he checked that shit. Now, what did David do? David just tried to make it like you all are being too sensitive. No, we're not being too sensitive. Black men do not go in white. Let's be clear here. You don't see black men going in white spaces talking about we got bigger dicks than you and we're fucking your women. You never see that. Let's be clear about that. And if they do think that, they're not even gonna be fucking with these white boys. Like, if they come at it like Platinum, because he's more likely to say some shit like that. Platinum ain't fucking with no white boys like that. So they're not gonna come in this space in the spirit of cooperation and then be like, yeah, man, my dick's bigger than yours and da-da. They're not gonna do that. But white people seem to have this need to try to project their superiority. And that's why it always kills me. And that's some insecure shit. And that's why it always kills me when they always try to act like, that's why I butted heads with Zero, and Zero's like, black people did that part. No, any black dude that was really MGTOW or really man's rights movement, they did not have a problem. Like Black Ram and all them, they didn't have an issue. But the issue is we got to deal with this gynocratic shit, which is not the same thing these white boys got to deal with. And they're basically saying, okay, we need to get up under them and then we'll all benefit. No, fuck that. Because y'all got actually more to lose than what we got. So if you can't understand that and you can't even, like the shit that we were talking about was not something that would have been outside of what they need anyway. Paternity tests, anything. There was nothing we were asking of them, quite frankly. It wasn't like fucking black mixed house women and white boys about reparations or some shit. Or some really serious pro-black shit. No. So yeah, and that's why folks say, you know what, we'll do our own. And then a lot of them white boys got real mad about that. They did not like the fact that a lot of the manosphere just said, fuck it, I'm doing me. And for the first year or two with that shit, I remember early on BGS, they were coming over here, they were talking some shit. Or they try to come on, and then once they realized that we were gonna sustain this space on our own, they started falling the fuck back. I remember that. A lot of y'all don't remember that. And the shit that he did, that white dude did, is exactly why you don't see motherfuckers fuck with them. That's exactly why O'Shea in particular was very apprehensive, is very apprehensive of really fucking with white people like that. And I got mad respect for him because O'Shea did not have to, I said this before, I say it again. O'Shea did not have to go out of his way to tell these white boys, look, you can listen, you can give me your views, maybe even your super chats, but this shit ain't for you. This is not some, what this is what Tommy does. We're gonna put up world star hip hop shit. What I call a nigga. I'm a nigger porn, where you put up world star hip hop shit. You start, and that's why, to be fair, most of the manosphere. It's very few people in the manosphere that does that, where they pull shit from world star hip hop and they just start showing just the absolute fucking what Obsidian would call park ape shit. So people always love to talk about how the manosphere has evolved for the better. I'm not saying we ever really did that, but I'm glad that we never just started using what. I mean, do you know how easy it is to create a channel? Really, and if you know what videos to pick and not to pick, and just show some Park Ape shit or comment on some Park Ape shit on the trending views from World Star Hip Hop. You know how easy that is? Somebody just sent me a video of a bitch doing some light skin shit. And I gotta go over that video because that video is crazy as fuck. Like when I'm seeing like women, and these are women in America. These are women that are low-key really having a serious conversation about lighting their skin. I might do a video on that, but I don't know because I don't want nobody trying to fucking kill my channel. If I do that video, I'm gonna schedule it and I'm gonna schedule it because it's not gonna be live. I'm probably gonna give it to Ramil, do it with Ramil or something, and let him put it on his Patreon because that shit is not gonna stay. It's gonna be something where y'all gonna have to catch it when you catch it. Also, by the way, I'll be on the breakdown Sunday as well. This Sunday they're doing some battle of the sexes or some shit. So they reached out to me, so I said I'd join. Should be in the afternoon and maybe later. So y'all keep that in mind. I'll pin that in the comment. But at the end of the day, bringing this all the way back, if you don't understand that black people's issue is the black community is structurally set up to be in the bottom class. If you don't understand that, and that starts with dealing with this gynocracy, and the way you deal with the gynocracy, you stop contributing to it. You stop talking about I need to basically convince black women that black men are on their team. No, fuck that. At the end of the day, black men need to start doing for themselves, and the females that are on board will be on board, and the ones that want to do that fuck shit and be with white daddy is basically these black women might as well be married to white men, and you all are sitting there trying to get them to divorce their white man and marry you. And you look goofy as fuck. You look just like Will Smith, where low key, Jada is married to the ghost of Tupac, and then Will is this dude that no matter what he does, Jada just ain't into him. That's literally what you niggas are doing, and they could tell you some shit, whatever you want to hear, but at the end of the day, that's what the fuck it is. And y'all ain't no different than Black Lives Matter. The end of the day, the white boy, even these motherfuckers like to talk pro-black and they try to blame the government for anything, that's just low-key. The government does more to empower black women than any other entity. So when they say that and not acknowledge that part, they're trying to double dip. That's why you always got to be wary of people that like to come in conversations wanting to put it all on the government, because they make it like the government is forcing them to make these choices. And that's not true, because everybody isn't making these choices. So they'll sit there and try to create a straw man to try to bring black men together, women together. But the problem is that's never going to stick, because at the end of the day, these issues have to be fixed. They cannot be, because otherwise you're just going to deal with it down the road. That's what it is. Anyway, so I'm 30 minutes in. Let me get y'all shit, and then I'm gonna head this out. Get the likes up. Yeah, well, doggy dog, as far as that, I mean, at the end of the day, men, first of all, I don't believe in buying bitches. Like like as far as, when people try to talk to, as a man, you should pay for everything. Jason Black used to say that, still does say that, and then when the Will shit happened, now he wants to switch it up a little bit and say, I never said that's the only thing you had to do. I understand that, but at the same time, everybody kind of understood that, but at the same time, now you're kind of acknowledging, you can call it whatever you want to call it, red pill, game, whatever, but at the end of the day, you're not dealing with a woman that's going to really respect that you're paying for everything. If a woman does not have a certain amount of respect for men, or compare and contrast to what a productive man can do, or they don't value that, like, and there's a difference between paying for a woman's security. Like, there's a difference between paying for a woman that she doesn't have to work and then providing a lifestyle. Those are two completely different things. A life, when you think of lifestyle, you're thinking about excess and not just a little bit left over, not rollover. You're talking about serious excess. So when I ever hear women, you notice how black women never use the word lifestyle, because when you use the word lifestyle, it becomes very apparent what we're talking about. That's game, low key. And when you ask them, okay, so what does this excess look like? Because if you could, and I'll have the conversation. Like, if you want to talk about excess, what are we talking about? And then I've heard women talk about, like, even with Kevin, this is why when Kevin asked that question, when he asked the question about what does that look like, and they always come up with this 300,000 number. I'm like, how many? So how many niggas do you realize that there's not even a 300? Do you realize that there's not even a $300,000 nigga for every chick that's a certified dime or nine? A nine without makeup, there is not enough $300,000. They'd have to double up. I'm like, where are all these $300,000 niggas at? Let alone men in general. Then you want the nigga to be 6 feet. Like, just that factor alone should be like, wow. And I'm not talking about, I'm fuck you settling, but I'm just saying this is what whenever I say 6 foot 6 figures, ooh, I love that. 66, 6 foot 6 figures. I'm not saying that to say you should choose a short nigga or choose somebody else. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that because you need to understand, if that's what you really want, how hard it is to get that. It's like me saying, I'm not saying, well, you want to play in the NBA, but the NBA is hard, so here's all these other options. Yeah, those options are there, but what I'm telling you is you need to understand what you really are looking to do. Because if you're really setting your happiness based on a 6 foot and 6 figure nigga, you're gonna go through life, and you only get one life to live according to the Christian Bible. You're gonna be going through life sad. You're gonna be going through the life very emotionally and mentally fucked up. Because at the end of the day, the world is not gonna provide you with that. Because that shit is every so does every other bitch 1 6 foot, regardless of race. And that's why you see all these isms that get created out of the black community, like colorism and all this other shit. Like, these bitches want to talk about colorism. Let's talk about, I forget who sent me, shout out to you that did that. I looked at like a 60 seconds of it, but I really looked at the comments. And I'm seeing this bitch is light skin. She's giving a light skin makeup tutorial and shit. This video was literally how to makeup, and it wasn't makeup. It wasn't makeup. It was light skin cream. And if you look at the comments, it wasn't like a hella comments, but it was like a couple of hundred. And these women are really like, I'm gonna do screenshots. And they were literally like asking questions. Like, it was fascinating. And what I might do is, I'm not gonna play the video. What I might do is just look at the comments, so that way nobody can tag me. But it was, and me just commenting on the comments. But it was fascinating to see these were African American women and to really see that shit. And it's like it's like they're talking about fucking weed. And it never dawns on them how fucking psychotic that is. I say that as a guy that's 5'5". Like, that's psychotic. But then when they're having these emotional reactions about colorism, that's all it is. They're blaming us for what the society did. And it always comes back to the fucking music. As if black men are the ones that are black. Most of these rappers you see today, they could not be there if they didn't have majority female followers. It ain't niggas that's putting them there. Not at the levels that they're at. So it's always this thing where I'm not accountable collectively to what we do. Dark Knight mentally, you need to be on. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I may do one more hurrah, and then I may not be these panels like that, because I'm about to get that classic that classic min mag up, and some of like. This channel is gonna be reset, and it's gonna have a focus on less socio-political stuff and more like what black men can do to live a better quality of life. And I'm gonna be really projecting. And some of y'all may not listen. I hope all y'all do, but it's gonna be more about what to do. I've talked to season 1 was about talking about the environment. Now season 2 is gonna be about talking about how to win. And it ain't gonna be game. It ain't gonna be this. It's gonna be more like business stuff like that. I leave that shit to other people. When it comes to talk about how to get bitches, I'm leaving that to Glenn and Cameron. That's my recommendation of choice. I'm gonna give you recommendations of stuff y'all should look at, read, and then outside of that, that's not my expertise. What's up, truth as I know it? Standards equal acting white. What's up, Will I R, Diaspora, Hammer. There used to not be a difference between pro-black and Pan-Africanism. That's what ADOS was for. ADOS was for establishing that difference because it's a nuance. And even Pan-Africanism has always been intermixed with pro-black. But even amongst pro-blacks, you got people that's pro-blacks in America, and then it's not that they're anti-black immigrant. It's that we need to get our shit first. So if you're in the United States and we're looking at, let's say, our entertainment people and all these other motherfuckers are not ADOS black and they're not representing our interests, then that's a problem. And you and anybody in any other country would have a problem with that. So, a lot of that is game when people try to act like, oh, you're just being anti. Like, you got to see, that's another video I'm going to do too. Black men have to learn how to say it's not personal, it's business. It's not personal, it's business. When it comes to black men, black people owning and controlling what goes on in the black community, ADOS, it's not personal, it's business. So from a business point of view, if you are a net positive when it comes to business, we're good. If not, we're going another direction. But what a lot of immigrants try to do, and a lot of other people, black women try to do, they try to make shit personal because they want to tap in, they want to seduce you into being emotionally invested or being guilty. It's everything I say is not personal, it's business. This is why they're like, your mama black, who hurt you, all this, because they want to make it like you're personalizing. I'm not personalized business. Everything that I talk about is not personal, it's just socioeconomic business. At the core, black men are supposed to be the foundation of a community. Not because that's just what I think it should be, because show me a community that runs it's not like that. Please show me. Please show me. Even in matriarchies, even though the women control, and they don't control the house, they just have, they have the kind of the authority with the house, and then men still control the society in other aspects. It's still the same thing. It's still the same thing. It's just the women get to control the house. And then you are based on who your mother is who you are. That's it. That's how I know the black community is not even a matriarchy, it's a gynocracy. The black church is the closest thing you really have to a black matriarchy, and even now it wouldn't even be that anymore. What's up, Game Changer? Y'all need to cut. I don't know what the fuck happened between you, Kuda. Y'all need to kill that shit because a lot of that shit is unnecessary. That's my personal opinion on it. Moving on. What's up, Jim Rat? Well, Jim Rat, here's the thing. I can eliminate 90% of all white incels because white incels refuse to fuck black women. So understand about an incel. This is why what Platinum didn't understand. Incels are not dudes that can't get women. They just, the women they can get, they generally don't choose to want to fuck with. That's why it's very few black incels, because black men will fuck the bottom barrel pussy that they can get for the most part. Most black men will not say no to pussy. If that's all they can get, that's what they're going to actually psychologically create a mentality that validates that. When dudes say they like big bitches, I don't give a fuck what any of you niggas say. If I put you with a chick that's like 150 pounds and she got a little bit of ass, a little bit of titties, up against a 200-pound bitch, same height, all things being equal, you're going to choose that. There's a difference between wanting skinny, mini, like bony, skinny chicks, and then wanting big bitches. Black men convince themselves of that. I could put it on the FS Avengers site. That's a good idea. I'm going to think about that. I'll think about that. You're absolutely right. Thank you for that. I would disagree with that, truth as I know it. I would disagree with that. Liberals are bad. Liberal white men. The thing about this is what you got to understand about liberal white men. First of all, you can't trust anything they fucking say, because liberal white men are just better you what you want to hear and then manipulating shit behind the scenes. So you can't trust them. At least white conservatives are man enough to tell you what the fuck they think up front for the most part. Or it's a little bit more obvious. Like, so don't believe that white liberals don't believe in the IQ shit. They believe that too. And see, that's why black people got to stop delineating from white folks' political leanings. They're the same people. Stop. No, don't let that bullshit fool you. Don't let this Antifa all right bullshit fool you. They're arguing amongst themselves, and then they'll use tactics are necessary in order to do that. But that does not mean they give a fuck about you. And what I will say is, for black men that do sleep, that do non-black women or do have kids with non-black women, you all in particular gotta come off of that fucking, oh, we're all one human race bullshit. Because at the end of the day, they don't believe that. It doesn't matter if you believe that. Because I know, truth is, I know we've had that conversation, and you hold stead to that. Guess what? You may be right. It doesn't matter because they don't give a fuck about that. They don't believe that. And just because a woman is having sex with you and having a kid doesn't mean that they're not thinking a generation down. They expect their kids to be with white folks. Ask any white woman that likes to fuck black. Because just because they're getting... Remember, Becky's turning to Karens. So just because they like to fuck black men don't mean they on team black. And black men get confused with that. So what happens is they start spouting off this liberal message, as if liberal whites are better just because they perceive to tolerate you all more. When a lot of, per truth be told, Oregon and Washington has a very racialized history, but they don't talk about it because they're liberal. Same thing when you look at Bernie Sanders in Vermont. Now, people in Vermont are a little bit better, but still, all these white zones, they have no problem living with just their own. And we need to be very clear about that. And I'm not calling you out because I know plenty of people that's with Italian, like with white people, and their mentality, they start taking on these ideologies of, they were never like ultra pro-black or pro-black, but they take on these ideologies of we are all the world. And that thing that I always tell them if we're gonna have the conversation is, you know what, I'm not gonna argue with you and say you shouldn't believe that, but you be a fool to act like everybody believes that. You be a fool to go into your whoever you're with house and act and think everybody thinking like that. You be a fool. They may tolerate you, and maybe and I'm talking about in general. And folks want to believe what they want to believe. They'll find it out one way or the other. That's not my problem. It is NBA fan 300K, and the thing is, they say it like it ain't. They say it like that baseline, and I'm like, it's only a couple of places, California and New York. Like, it's only a couple of places where you you don't need 300K. Like, are you sitting like adding 150 plus 150? And it's stupid. That's how you know they thinking income and not wealth. That's how you know they're thinking of income and not wealth right there. You do not need, it's very few places in the world where 300K is what you need. Man, don't get me started on that. That just tells me how goofy they are. No, they can't. Polite liberal, no. Truth is, I know it. Will I is right. No, they can't. What they're gonna do is they're gonna tell you what the fuck you want to hear. No, they're not. Because if that was true, then we wouldn't be dealing with the shit we dealing with right now. That's not, but whatever. Will I are. The thing you got, I fuck with truth as I know it, but you gotta understand he's gonna believe what he's gonna believe. And that's another thing in the manosphere. We gotta just start letting, like, when I say a conversation, I'm not telling y'all nothing to change your mind. I'm telling y'all so the audience can hear my side and your side. And at the end of the day, I leave it to the audience because this is about them. And obviously, you all are a part of our audience with me. I'm not on here to change your mind. So if that's what you want to believe, that's what you want to believe. But this is why I always say, don't go red pill for black women to remain blue pill for non-black women, because non-black women come at you in different ways. Non-black women come at you a lot more subtle, a lot more long-term. Black men are not really capable of they have never been trained to deal with that because they're used to our women blitz. Our women like to blitz. So they're not used to a different defensive strategy like that. They're not used to that. And y'all should see, like, even Sarah Palin, a lot of these chicks did some of the biggest Karens had black dick once upon a time. So that disproves, that's been not true. But it is what it is. Appreciate the $5 Fast Attack. This video is sponsored by Fast Attack. Those are ignorant ass white folks that are screaming Black Lives Matter. That's that white guilt. But make no mistake, when you look at all these corporations, these more liberalized corporations, when you look at what Black Lives Matter actually is, that is a white-owned organization. So yeah, they can scream Black Lives Matter as a tactic, just like how a lot of hard right Christians are always talking about is pro-Israel, even though their religion teaches them that Israelites are gonna be, some shit gonna happen with the rapture. But they're pro. So do not believe that temporary allies are permanent partners. So no, I don't give a damn about any of these white men or white women screaming Black Lives Matter. All they're only doing that because A is cool and B because it's white guilt, and they're honestly screaming that because they're upset that they're seeing it. That's all it is. So no, they get no points for me for that shit. Just like how black women get no points for me for screaming Black Lives Matter, because they have their own agenda in that, and they have their own agenda a little bit more. I would give them more heat on that than actually white folks, but still, no. They're doing that so you can just have more proof to tell yourself what you want to tell yourself. But y'all, black people got to be very cautious of these liberalized zones, because the reality is that shit will that will lull you in a hypnotic state where shit is changing around you and you're not paying attention because you're in a comfortable state. No, you think because they're not overt with it that it's not the same thing. It is. Because even in places like California, if you don't believe me, show me any liberalized zone and then gentrification. Gentrification is happening more in liberalized areas than they actually are in more conservative areas. So where it counts, where it really counts, that shit ain't happening. So let's stop it. Racism exists just as much in these liberalized zones. They just a little bit more sophisticated how they go about doing it. Yeah, unsucking when it's business. Sub dark masculinist, Shane Vicious. I'm speaking on the last conversation we had in regarding to that. And I'm not so much talking to you just personally. I'm talking about people that kind of can operate in that category of potentially having that mindset. Because I've heard it where I am. Ezra, that's true about white liberal to the Derek Jackson. Appreciate that, Justin Mars. I appreciate the super chats. What I said was, other than New York and California, you might be able to throw DC in there. 300. It's very few places even to have the argument. And if I have the argument be, if you need 300K to live, then what's going on with all the people that don't have 300K? Because everybody doesn't have 300K. So let's be clear here about that. And let's be clear here that, like, for instance, like where I live right now, which is a growing place, like it's pretty much you compare to Austin, Texas, like folks are talking about six figures like everybody's making that. Folks talk about figures like it's $50,000. Most people are not making that. I don't know where you all are around. Like, I understand you all are in bubbles. Nigga, I know people that make $30,000, $40,000 a month. So, but that doesn't have me thinking that's just what the world is. And so when I hear women say that sounds childish. No, De Blasio is a liberal. He got a black wife. And those are the ones I look at with the most suspect. Because they think they're comfortable because they can just put her out there. Anyway, y'all, I appreciate the super chats. You know, appreciate the super chats. And I put my thoughts out here. Yeah, $300,000. I'm like, do you not understand? I don't care where you're in the United States of America. If you make $300,000, if you make $300,000, if you're not a natural 8 at the minimum, you need not apply. If you're not a natural 8, you ain't got no kids, and you don't know how to shut the fuck up, I don't give a fuck how much money you're making. I don't give a fuck if you're a millionaire. I don't give a fuck if you're a female and you're a millionaire. Dudes that make 300,000, your looks are more valuable to a dude than your money. And if that's not true, you shouldn't fuck with that dude, because that dude's about to use you and get your ass good. So if you're not and I'll really argue if you're not a 9, but I'll say an 8. Because even if you're a shorter person or whatever, as long as you're not like hideously ugly or something, you make it 300,000. If you're not an 8, you need not apply. Not no upgradable 8. I mean, like, you're an 8 at baseline. Your base form, like Dragon Ball Z, is 8. You need not apply. You need not, and if you're not coachable, you need not apply. And that knocks out, and then you know why a lot of these sisters ain't in these conversations with a lot of these dudes. And you got to remember, some of these females that are talking, they do not live in California. They live in zones where 300, that please get it out of here. Anyway, appreciate the convo. This is Edward signing off. Peace.